Hey everybody, Derek Judd, the Cowboy Criminologist, here with Cowboy Criminology. So, man, I don't know what's going on in in the world right now as far as the criminal justice field is concerned. You have judges and prosecutors just trying to get themselves at a bare minimum disbarred, if not locked in prison, presumably with people they've helped put away. But you have law enforcement officers that it's not even like they made bad decisions in the spur of the moment. It seems like these officers are going above and beyond to find a situation that they can put themselves in to say nobody will ever make a worse decision than I've made. And it's scary. And I had this conversation. What brought this up is I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's still an active duty police officer, and he was talking about a lot of these things are training issues. And I disagreed with him. And I said, no, a lot of these are personnel issues. And these are things that should have been found out in the background check. And if the individual was able to pass the background check, they should have come out in the field training phase of the officer's training. And if they didn't come out during the FTO phase, they should have been spotted before the end of the probationary period. And so a lot of there's a hiring crisis in law enforcement right now. And the reason that crisis exists is for a multitude of reasons, including the administration, the unfriendly perception of law enforcement, the way law enforcement officers are perceived in this country is helping drive that exodus. But a training issue is something that happens that that shouldn't have happened. And that comes down to let's take Sandra Dorley's case, for example. The officer who stopped her in her garage, a lot of people were very critical about how he handled that. Did he necessarily do anything wrong? No, he didn't. But the video went viral. It's, even on my channel, it's gotten a number of hits because everybody's looking for a different take on what Sandra Dorley's major malfunction is. The training issue there is he needed to be more assertive on affecting the traffic stop. And as soon as she tried to make it into her house, he should have arrested her. Could have arrested her. Now, how he chose to handle that traffic stop, you ask 10 different officers, they'll probably give you 10 different ways he should have handled that traffic stop. But that's a training issue. How officers handle traffic stops and interference from their administration are training issues. Okay? This video I'm about to show you right now, and it's been circling for a little bit. But this is not a training issue. This is a personnel issue. And I am telling you right now, the red flags were there. So I'm going to show you the video, and we'll talk about it here in just a second.
Okay, we're just going to go to my car right here, okay? Follow me. Is this car okay? On the other side of my car. You're not. Well, I can't hear you now. Don't say that right now. No, I said don't say that right now because everything's being recorded right now. What's going on?
Those windows look foggy to y'all?
Alright, sir, step out of the vehicle for me. 114 yellow. We're code 4. Everything just went wrong. Okay, hold on. Let me turn my camera off. She's code 4? She's code 4. Okay. Let me turn this off real quick.
So, that video on its own looks absolutely horrific, doesn't it? It certainly would make you think that there is something very, very wrong with that whole setup. Now, as a supervisor, I have had officers inadvertently get locked in the back seat of their vehicles. They're cleaning the vehicle out, they're searching it after a transport, something like that. Where I happen to live, there's a lot of wind. So, yeah, it's conceivable that the wind would blow a door shut and the officer would become trapped in the back of the vehicle. Okay? This is not a training issue because anytime an officer is transporting somebody of the opposite sex, most agencies have a policy that they call out the beginning mileage they state their initial location, where they're at, what their mileage is, and where they're going. Okay. A lot of times, if the body camera is detachable and can be put on a mount where it faces the back seat, or if there's a camera in the back, or the camera can be turned around, that'll be done so that the prisoner in the back of the vehicle is kept on camera until they reach their destination. Now, in Officer Hare's original report, he said that he believed that the female in the back seat was either trying to get out of her. He believed that the female in the back seat was trying to either get out of her hand restraints or she was having a medical emergency. So he pulled over on a residential street just a couple blocks away from a jail that would, in San Diego County, would presumably have medical staff, given the size that they are. Yet he pulls over to check on her. And one of the things he said is that his body camera became disconnected. Okay. The body cam he's using, the Axon body cameras, the mounts, the magnetic mounts that those things have, y'all, you could pull a truck with those things. They are stout. It is very difficult to remove those accidentally. Okay. Even if by some fluke it managed to just come off, scraped it across the steering wheel, or the seatbelt pulled it off, what have you, still doesn't explain why the body camera went dark. Okay. So he goes to get into the back seat. Now, he said he's back there for about 10 minutes, and then he calls for another officer. So the full report that I read stated that he called an officer on his cell phone and said, "Hey, I need you to meet me in my location. I'm locked in the back of my vehicle with a prisoner." And so he's trying to get the officer who Officer Hare called is trying to get more information, like, what's going on? Are you in danger? Because is this an ambush? Is this a setup? Has he been taken prisoner himself, where where the bad guy is now trying to suck more officers onto the scene to take out multiple officers. All these things are running through this officer's mind, and the officer Hare keeps saying, no, it's nothing like that. Just come to my location, and I'll talk to you about it when you get here. So the officer sits there, thinks about it for all of 2 seconds, and goes, "No, I'm not going." So he calls the duty sergeant and tells the sergeant, "Hey, Hare's transporting a female prisoner, and he still hasn't made it to the jail yet. Well, apparently he's locked in the back seat with this female detainee." Which right there should raise a lot of red flags for a supervisor. I know when I saw that story, I shook my head. I was like, I could not believe that was happening. And so the officer's statement to the sergeant when the sergeant got on scene was that he was checking the prisoner because she was saying that she was having some sort of medical emergency, and the door shut behind him and he was locked in there. Now, according to the video, it said that after 10 minutes in the back seat, he called for another officer, but nobody arrived on scene for about an hour. So I'm not really sure what was going on with that, but what is not in dispute is that after evidence was collected in the back seat, his semen was not only found on his duty belt on the back seat of the vehicle, it was also found on the person of the female detainee. Okay? Y'all, this should not be a shock to you. There is no such thing as consensual sexual contact between a police officer and somebody they are escorting. Whether it's to a safe address, whether it's to jail, whenever an officer is on duty, there is no such thing as consensual sexual contact. All right, for a very good reason. Okay, you may have seen a video floating around about an officer who's in trouble for performing on an OnlyFans video while he was on duty. All right, you cannot do that. There is no. It might vary state to state. I can't think of a state right off the top of my head that would allow that type of behavior. But from a professional standard, from an ethical standard, no, there is no consensual sexual contact with somebody who's in your care, custody, and control. All right. When you are acting in your official capacity as a police officer, that goes out the window. You might be the most charming, good-looking officer who's ever put on a badge and gun. All right. But let me let you in on a little something. People will say or do just about anything to keep from getting a ticket and to keep from going to jail. Ask me how I know. All right. So with all of these things going on, the fact that he allowed himself to get into that position shows that he has a lack of judgment. Okay. Tracing that back from his background to his field training to his probation. The fact that this person was not making sound judgment decisions, this was not a one-off. Somewhere down the line, there were red flags, and people, either supervisors or other officers, said, I don't know about this guy. He does a lot of really questionable, really suspect things, and now he's in a position where he had to resign. Of course, he's probably going to end up facing charges. He's more than likely going to lose his peace officer license and will not be able to get another one. And when you have officers who do this, who engage in this type of behavior without thinking anything about it, that is a problem. I have always told my officers, if you're not doing anything wrong and there's no reason for secret squirrel, get on the radio and just admit that you've got a problem. All right. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, you're probably going to get made fun of, but you know what? It's a teachable moment. Even if this officer had gotten immediately on the phone with his sergeant and just said, "Hey, you know, this is what happened. You know, I made a bad decision. I pulled over here. You know, I want to stay on the phone with you because I managed to lose my body camera. I don't know if it's on, what have you." And an investigation would show the timeline added up. Yeah, that then becomes a training issue. And you can look at it as, you know, he probably could have received you know, a write up, verbal counseling, maybe even a couple days suspension. All of those things understandable because he exercised poor judgment. But as soon as he realized he was exercising poor judgment, he tried to correct it. That wasn't the case. All right. So when you see an officer engage in this type of behavior, it's not a training issue, it's a personnel issue. And somewhere down the line, I am telling you, somebody had reservations about this officer's ability to be a peace officer. All right. So, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Derek Judd for Cowboy Criminology. I'll talk to you next time.